In this video, you will learn how to teach your child puzzles. In today's modern world, parents and educators often underestimate the simple power of an old-fashioned puzzle in teaching children the many skills and concepts needed for success. Puzzles can help teach visual spatial skills, hand-eye coordination, pattern recognition, language skills, play skills, as well as improve attending and teach logical and thinking skills. Children as young as 1 year of age should be able to do simple puzzles. Puzzles are helpful and fun for all ages, including adults, as long as they are taught correctly and with the right level of difficulty. The objective of this program is to teach your child how to complete 10 or more age-appropriate puzzles. The number of total mastered puzzles will vary between 10 to 50 mastered puzzles, depending on your child's age and their beginning level. Unless your child is already completing puzzles independently, you'll want to start by teaching 10 or so island puzzles like the one in this picture, or like the ones we will use in our example. For supplies, we will need 10 large or small knobbed island puzzles. You should select the knob size that works best for your child and that is easiest to manipulate. If you're unsure, a mix of 50% of each is fine. Next, you will need 10 non-interlocking puzzles, and if your child is at least 31 months old, 12-piece jigsaw puzzles with frames. If your child is at least 4 years old, then you will also need 24 25-piece jigsaw puzzles with frames and jigsaw puzzles without frames or floor puzzles. Before you begin, it is helpful but not required that your child can place shapes in a simple 3-hole shape sorter. Also, again, start with island puzzles unless your child is already working on more complicated puzzles independently. Let's cover some guidelines about the pieces I recommend teaching to assist you in selecting the right kinds of puzzles to purchase. When we start, we're going to select the piece that is closest to the midline of the student. This means that the pieces surrounding the piece need to be different in shape, color, and size to facilitate discrimination. We also want pieces that slide or rotate easily into place. One trick you can use is to take a little sandpaper to the edges of the pieces to help loosen the fit. Also, when purchasing cardboard puzzles, make sure the puzzle is not warped or bent, as the pieces will continuously pop up while the child is working on them, leading to frustration. To teach puzzles, we are going to use a procedure we call backward chaining. Backward chaining involves linking multiple responses together in, you guessed it, backwards order. Take, for example, a 3-piece puzzle. To teach this, we would take a single piece out and then have the child complete the puzzle. That is, teach the puzzle one step before completion. Next, we teach a second piece. Then we take 2 pieces out and the child then responds twice, putting each piece in. We do this until our desired starting point of all 3 pieces are out and the child is placing each individual piece in order to complete the puzzle. While working backward in the beginning, you'll want to offer small verbal praise as the child places each piece in the puzzle, with a large reward coming at the end for the completed puzzle. Since this is a beginning program with lots of room to grow, you will be doing a lot of guidance with the puzzles as you shape up the responses. It is not necessary that a child is 100% independent with their first puzzle before moving on. In fact, it's likely that trying to achieve that would cause disinterest and resistance with the program. Rather, move each puzzle along with quality responses, but you may be using a little guidance along the way during the early teaching stage to help keep things going. Examples of this kind of little guidance is helping the child slide a piece if it's stuck, sitting behind the child to nudge them or to block self-stimulatory behavior, prompting a child with the words "turn it" to get it to fall into place, tapping the puzzle to encourage the child to continue working, or holding the puzzle frame for the child. While all of these prompts will eventually need to be faded, they are okay in the beginning. Notice all of these prompts are related to motor movements. None of them are for putting the piece in the right spot. Placing a piece in the correct spot without a prompt is required before a step can be considered mastered. But these fine little motor problems that we're talking about don't have to be completely mastered before moving on. Today we are going to teach a small knob island puzzle. This is probably where about half of you will start. Others will probably start with the 3-piece large knob puzzles, and a couple of you will be starting on non-interlocking puzzles or maybe even higher. Our first target today is Stegosaurus. We are selecting a highly visible first piece that is close to the child. The SD is do puzzle, and the response is for the child to place the correct puzzle piece in the correct location. Our prompt fade sequence will be hand over hand, to physical, to position prompting, to pointing. You'll probably do more hand-over-hand prompting in this program than any other program in the beginning programs. We remove the target piece from the puzzle. Initially, you want this piece directly in front of the spot it goes, with the correct orientation already established. Ready your rewards and call the child over to the table. We deliver the SD, do puzzle, and immediately prompt to ensure success. Remember, you'll always prompt initial targets since an early failure can lead to a program taking much longer than it otherwise would have. The child completes the puzzle piece. Notice we are holding the puzzle for the child at this point. We give our child social praise, awesome, and also give our child a tangible reward. This time we will be using a pointing prompt. We again deliver our SD, do puzzle, our child completes the puzzle with just a pointing prompt. Again we reward with a piece of candy and social praise. Fantastic! Okay, one more time. We will try not to use any prompts. Do puzzle. The child completes the puzzle. We again deliver reward. You're so smart, go play. Sometimes a child will want to continue to play with the puzzle. This is not recommended in the beginning. Make sure each puzzle is mastered first before the child is allowed to play with it. If the child tries to remain at the table, engage them in some other fun and appropriate play away from the table. Our second target is T-Rex. It is a different color, shape, and size than our first target. The SD is still do puzzle, and the response is for the child to place the correct puzzle piece into the correct location. We issue our instruction, do puzzle, and use a pointing prompt, because again, it's a new item. The child responds correctly, we offer verbal praise, you rock, and an M&M. Now we are going to ask for do puzzle without any prompts, but we are ready to prompt if needed. Remember, we may need to tap the puzzle, point, or help the child slide it in, or use a verbal prompt like turn it. In fact, turn it can be taught by simply saying turn it while prompting the child to rotate the piece in their hand. Eventually, the child will rotate it on their own upon you saying turn it. The child has responded correctly. Again, we offer verbal praise, great work, go play, and a reward. Let's take a look at our data so far. We didn't see every trial, but in our example, we can see we mass trialed Stegosaurus until it was 100%. Then we mass trialed T-Rex until that was 100%. It took 5 trials. That's generally about 1 session's worth of trials. Our next step is to begin random rotation. We place both pieces out and deliver our SD. Do puzzle. The child begins with the first piece. The order the child completes the puzzle in is not important. Whichever one the child with starts, that's fine. The child completes the first piece. The child starts the second piece. The child completes the second piece. And we deliver our social praise. Unbelievable! And give a primary reward. Our third target is Bronchiosaurus. Is a different color, shape, and size than our first 2 targets. Everything else remains the same. We present the puzzle and say, do puzzle. The child responds correctly, and we reward with a primary and verbal praise. Let's take another look at our data. We can see we have gotten each puzzle piece in mass trial to 100%. We've also gotten both the T-Rex and the Stegosaurus in random rotation at 100%. Next, we need to randomly rotate all 3 pieces together. Remove all 3 pieces from the puzzle. We're still going to put them in relatively easy locations with upright orientations. Deliver your SD, do puzzle. Child completes the first piece. Child completes the second piece. Child completes the second piece and starts the third. Notice that the child is using both hands. This is fine. We'll shape this up later where the child uses his non-dominant hand to hold the puzzle. But in many cases, hand dominance may not yet be established. Finally, the child completes the puzzle. Before moving on to the next piece, we want to make sure that we don't need to place the puzzle piece in front of where it goes. We also want to make sure that it doesn't need to be orientated a certain way for the child to be successful. You may be able to do this right away, or you may have to systematically vary each piece. A list of possible systematic variances of orientations is available in the instructions download for this program. The 2 main aspects you must vary are the placement, left, middle, or right, and rotation, usually 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees, although sometimes there's more. Be aware some children may only rotate in one direction, such as clockwise. This will have to be taken into account. So you may have each dinosaur in a left, middle, and right position and at 90, 180, and 270 degrees. In this example, for instance, we have Stegosaurus left to 170 degrees and Bronchiosaurus middle at 90 degrees. Just remember, these steps aren't required. I'm providing them for those of you who have children who need them in order to be successful at puzzles. Continue teaching using the mass trial random rotation sequence until all the pieces have been mastered. When all of the pieces have been mastered, start to fade off the small helping guidance that you have been using up until this point. You can also begin to teach your next puzzle at this time. To completely master a puzzle, the child should be able to dump out all of the pieces and complete the puzzle in no more than 5 to 7 seconds apiece. That is, a 5-piece puzzle should take no more than about 35 seconds to complete. Final result should be then, we say, do puzzle, the child dumps out the entire puzzle, and completes the entire puzzle independently. As your child progresses, you may be able to introduce 2 or 3 new pieces at a time. You will also not want to repeatedly do the same puzzle in a row if your child is successful and independent. You will find because of the chained aspect of this program, we'll have fewer SDs per sitting, but they will take longer than others. We account for the decreased trials by increasing the mastery criteria in random rotation from our normal 80% to 100%. One final note, it is not necessary to rotate different puzzles for mastery, just all of the pieces from a single puzzle. To generalize the puzzles, you should be sure your child can dump out all of the pieces and put them back in independently, away from the table, and play with them during free time. It's often helpful to create a puzzle corner where the child can find all of their puzzles. Okay, a few tips. Don't let the child engage in self-stimulatory behavior while they are doing puzzles. It interferes with the puzzles and slows down your progress. And if you reward the puzzle, you also reward the stims. You will inadvertently end up increasing self-stimulatory behavior if you do this. Sometimes children have a very hard time becoming interested in puzzles. In this case, one can make a puzzle out of a reinforcing picture in an attempt to gain interest. For example, if a child loved cookies, you could make a cookie puzzle, and then give the child a cookie when they work on it. Sometimes children have problems with keeping pace on puzzles. In this case, a turn-taking approach is often helpful, as the instructor does a piece and the child does a piece, and so on. This is also a good beginning activity for peer play when the time comes. The general strategy then is, whenever your child is having problems with puzzles, break the puzzles down into the smallest possible tasks and build the tasks back up until your child can complete the puzzle. That brings us to the end of teaching puzzles. Remember, you'll want to teach about 10 age-appropriate puzzles, but you'll need to start with island puzzles, so you may end up teaching about 10 to 50 puzzles. You will want to teach puzzles using backward chaining. This is where you start at one step from the end and systematically work backwards to the beginning. Mastery for puzzles, unlike other programs, is 100% in random rotation, due to the fewer trials that take place. Mastery may be a relative term in the beginning, since you will be progressing with a lot of subtle guidance. This is okay as long as you remember to address these subtle prompts at some point down the road. Finally, when in doubt, break it down. Troubleshooting programs like this require you to look at all the small possible steps that exist and break them down, and then build them back up. You may need to create some small mini goals, such as learning how to grab or rotate pieces to accomplish your goals. Well, thank you again for watching. I'm James Milan for AutismGurus.com, helping your child become a star.